This week, the world was shaken by the news of the death of the Pontiff Pope Francis. Today, we will delve deep into all the mysteries involved in the moment of revelation that we are currently experiencing. Have you ever wondered why the Vatican, an institution that should look to the sky only in prayer, invests millions in astronomical technology, analyzing the stars with an intensity that borders on obsession? Why does one of their most advanced telescopes bear the dark name of Lucifer? And most disturbing, what will be the role of the next pope on a global stage where hidden forces seem to be setting the stage for something monumental? I am CN7, and what I am about to reveal is but a fragment of a vast plan, carefully hidden for decades, perhaps centuries. A secret mission involving the Vatican, yes, but also ancient prophecies being distorted and the possible introduction of narratives about beings, not exactly human, to explain our own origins. All of this converging towards the moment we live in now, a deliberately engineered turning point. And you, are you truly ready to confront what lies beyond the veil? In the 11th century, an age of fervor and shadow, the Irish Archbishop St. Malachy had a vision that would span nearly a millennium to haunt our present. A disturbing vision whose authenticity is debated by skeptics, but whose symbolic power is undeniable to those who observe the hidden patterns. He would have received, directly or through means that official history prefers not to detail, a long list, 111 mottos in Latin. Short, enigmatic phrases. Each one, they say, a prophetic seal for a future pope, from Celestine II until the end of time. A countdown engraved in mystical stone. And at the end of this sinister list, one name stands out, loaded with omens. Petrus Romanus, Peter the Roman, the last one. He who is destined to shepherd his flock in the midst of many tribulations, tribulations that would culminate in the destruction of the city of 7 hills, Rome, and after its fall, the final judgment, the end of a cycle. Historical coincidence? A clever hoax planted centuries later? Or an authentic prophecy? A divine script? Or perhaps a script being explored by very human, very modern hands? And where does this leave us with the current Pontiff Francis? His Italian ancestry, his name evoking Saint Francis of Assisi, whose father was named Pietro, were these subtle nods? Did he somehow bring the sequence of 111 mottos to a close? Or was he a harbinger, a transitional figure before the arrival of the real Petrus Romanus, the one who will witness the predicted apocalypse? What are we not being told about the true nature of this succession and the role it plays in the larger plans of those who pull the strings of global destiny? Is the prophecy a warning or a weapon? Beyond the prophecies carved in stone and whispered through the centuries, there exists another kind of hidden knowledge, one that blends ancient faith with terrifying cosmic possibilities. Few have heard of it, and even fewer have had access to it. But a book has emerged from the shadows, claiming to be based on confidential documents and off-the-record interviews with figures within the Church itself. Exo-Vaticana by Thomas Horn and Chris Putnam. This text is not a mere study. It is treated by many as a dangerous denunciation, a window into secrets that the Vatican would keep under lock and key. In it, a bombshell claim is revealed. The Vatican has been secretly preparing for decades not only for contact, but for the arrival of non-human intelligences, and not just any arrival, but that of a supposed savior, a messianic figure who would not belong to Earth, but to deep space. This idea alone opens a portal to questions that we will explore in depth. What does this preparation actually involve? What new sciences and theologies are being forged in the shadows? And what does this truly mean for the future of humanity and the role of the Church in it? The answers may be stranger than we imagine. Mount Graham, Arizona, a name that echoes with mystery, a mountain peak considered sacred by Native Americans, now crowned by cutting-edge technology. There, under clear skies and strategic isolation, is installed one of the most advanced optical instruments ever built by humanity. His official name is a technical acronym, but his nickname, Lucifer, a name that sends shivers, a name that whispers secrets. And who controls this powerful eye pointed at the stars? Jesuits, scientists of the Jesuit order, operating on behalf of the Vatican Observatory. Yes, the Vatican, guardian of an ancient faith, has not one, but two cosmic eyes. One in Castel Gandolfo, Italy, on the foundations of an ancient volcano, a place of earthly power. And Lucifer, in the heart of the American desert, analyzing the depths of the universe. But the question that lingers, thicker than cosmic dust, is why? What exactly are they searching so hard for in the far reaches of space? Why do Jesuit priests and astronomers dedicate their lives to mapping the cosmos with instruments with such suggestive names? What do they know about the universe, about our origin, or about our future, that we, the rest of humanity, do not know? What inconvenient truths or impending revelations lurk behind these lenses? As telescopes scan the skies for answers, other, far more obscure and controversial disciplines emerge from the academic and theological shadows. Few people know the terms. Even fewer understand the seismic implications they carry. Astrobiology, the now almost trivial science of the search for life beyond Earth. But it is its theological counterpart that really interests us. Exotheology, the speculative doctrine, almost heretical to some, that dares to adapt the pillars of faith to the disconcerting possibility of alien existence. Have you heard these terms before? Have you considered what they really mean to established religious power structures? Because what is whispered in certain circles, what books like Exo-Vaticana claim, is that the Church is not just considering, but actively preparing to admit that intelligent, conscious beings not only are there out there, but they can be vastly different, perhaps even superior to us in spirit or technology. And here, the doctrine begins to contort itself in unthinkable ways. What if these beings didn't need redemption? What if they had never known the concept of original sin? This would imply that they would not even need baptism, that perhaps Christ himself would not be relevant to them. What theological abyss would open up? What earthquake of faith would this cause in humanity? Is exotheology paving the way to accept not only aliens, but a new understanding of the divine dictated by them? Exotheology is not just an academic exercise restricted to dusty rooms. The questions it raises echo throughout the highest echelons of the Vatican, spoken aloud by those who command its cosmic eyes. Father Guy Consolmagno, note, a Jesuit, planetary scientist and the director of the Vatican Observatory, has published a book with a title that challenges the imagination and perhaps faith itself. Would you baptize an alien? This is not cheap science fiction. It is not a remote hypothesis thrown to the wind. It's a real question, thoughtfully asked and published by one of the Roman Catholic Church's leading scientists, a man with access to information we can only dream of. And it doesn't stop there. Pope Francis himself, in a 2014 sermon, used a shocking image, declaring that if a Martian, green, with a long nose and big ears, as he described, came and asked for baptism, Who are we to close the doors? Was it just a pastoral metaphor about inclusion, as the official version quickly explained? Or would it be something more? A subtle psychological preparation? A trial balloon to gradually accustom the global mind to an idea that, until recently, was unthinkable? Are they sowing the seeds for a future acceptance of something truly extraordinary that they know is coming? But do you really believe that all this astronomical fuss at the Vatican, with its suggestively named telescopes and theologians debating cosmic baptisms, is just scientific curiosity? Or is the cosmos itself beginning to leak the secrets they, and perhaps others, are desperately trying to control? Think about it. September 2023. A quiet discovery, almost whispered in the halls of astrobiology, but with the potential to shake everything up. K2-18b, an exoplanet 124 light-years away, in the constellation Leo. The James Webb Telescope detects an intriguing gas in its atmosphere, dimethyl sulfide DMS. Why does this matter? Because here on Earth, to our limited knowledge, this gas is only produced on a large scale by living organisms, specifically by phytoplankton in our oceans. An alien world, possibly covered in liquid oceans beneath a dense hydrogen atmosphere, exuding a possible sign of life. A habitable world, or most likely, already inhabited. A discovery of this magnitude should have made all the headlines, don't you think? Or was the information carefully dosed, released in fragments so as not to cause panic or unwanted questions? K2-18b is no longer just a data point. It has become a symbol, perhaps an omen. Now, let's look closer at our own cosmic backyard. Mars, the red planet, for decades painted as a cold, dry, barren desert, but which, under the persistent gaze of probes and rovers, is beginning to reveal the ghosts of a radically different past. Dry riverbeds winding through desolate plains, drainage channels that speak of running water, crystals and complex organic molecules found in soil, and even controversial reports of microscopic hexagonal structures reminiscent of primitive biological patterns. NASA's own missions, after much reluctance, admit the presence of methane in the thin Martian atmosphere, a gas that dissipates quickly and whose presence requires a continuous source. And methane, like DMS in K2-18b, may indeed have a biological origin. Is Mars a failed Earth? A cradle of life that has dried up? Or, as some ancient texts might suggest, an ancient Eden, the scene of events that were deliberately erased from our history? As we ponder these distant and near signs, the Vatican observatories, including L.U.C.I.F.E.R, continue their silent vigil, mapping not just stars and planets, but perhaps monitoring the weather, waiting for a specific signal? The question that few dare to ask out loud: do they observe these worlds with such interest because they already know, through other means, that we are not alone? Or is it something even more disturbing? Do they know who was here, long before us? If cosmic signs and theological discussions were not enough, sources such as the book Exo-Vaticana claim to go further, penetrating the administrative corridors of the Vatican itself, the Roman Curia. There, among papal decrees and canonical matters, there would be internal, classified documents dealing with a subject that defies reality itself, specific, top-secret guidelines for the eventuality of confirmed alien contact. We're not talking about vague speculation. The allegations point to detailed protocols, including doctrinal adaptation, how to adjust or reinterpret centuries of theology to accommodate non-human, perhaps unfallen, perhaps older than humanity itself. Diplomatic procedures. Who would speak on behalf of the Earth? How can we establish relationships with civilizations that may operate under logics that are completely different from ours? Global psychological preparation. How to manage the shock, the panic, the possible disintegration of social and religious structures around the world after such a revelation? If such documents exist, the implication is clear and terrifying. They know, or firmly believe, that something is coming. It's not a question of if, but of when. And they're meticulously planning how to control the narrative, how to reveal this to the world on their own terms. Do you still believe that all of this is just speculation? What pragmatic men at the heart of an ancient institution would take the time to plan? Fantasies? Or do they have access to information that justifies such extraordinary preparation? But what use would secret guidelines and an adapted theology be? Just to manage peaceful contact? The truth suggested by sources like Exo-Vaticana is much more ambitious and disturbing. They paint a scenario where the power elite, perhaps including factions within the Church itself, would not only be preparing to welcome beings from other worlds, but to present one of them as the consummation of religious history itself, a new Christ, a cosmic Christ, coming not from Nazareth, but from a distant star system. Imagine the scene. An advanced, perhaps radiant figure, descending from the heavens in technology that we would mistake for miracles. A being capable of feats that would defy our laws of physics, offering knowledge, peace, unity. A figure perfectly positioned to fulfill ancient prophecies from diverse cultures, reinterpreted in the light of a new galactic era. But why? What would be the purpose of such a monumental staging? Could this be the final move of the world controllers, as mentioned in certain alternative texts, to unify humanity under a single banner? A new order that is not only worldwide, but heavenly? Would it be a way to erase existing religions, replacing them with a single, easier-to-manage cult centered on this charismatic figure from the stars? And the idea of an ancient mistake? What does that really mean? Suggests this wouldn't be the first time. That cosmic or interdimensional entities would have presented themselves as gods or saviors throughout human history, guiding or manipulating our destiny for their own incomprehensible ends. The cosmic Christ would then be just the most recent, and perhaps the last, chapter in this long story of interference and deception. The ultimate psychological weapon to subdue the human will. Think deeply, deep down in your soul. Would you accept a new Messiah, coming from the heavens? Not from the spiritual heavens that you have been taught to revere, but from the cold, vast, starry, physical sky out there. Is humanity on the verge of an evolutionary leap? Or a final surrender to unknown cosmic masters? The line is thin, and maybe non-existent. But is the narrative of a cosmic Christ coming from space the only interpretation of what the Vatican really hopes or fears? There is another voice, a voice that emerged from the Jesuit ranks themselves, that painted a perhaps even stranger picture. Malachi Martin, a name that resonates with controversy and intrigue in circles investigating the secrets of the Vatican. Former Jesuit priest, professor at the Pontifical Biblical Institute in Rome, and, crucially, close advisor to Cardinal Augustin Bey during the Second Vatican Council. A man who knew the corridors of power and the secrets whispered within them. A true insider. In 1997, shortly before his mysterious death, Martin gave a bombshell interview to the radio show Coast to Coast AM, a space known for exploring the unexplained. There, he categorically stated that the Vatican telescopes, including L.U.C.I.F.E.R, are monitoring something specific, something that is approaching Earth. something that will change everything. But here the narrative diverges radically from the idea of alien saviors. According to Martin, the Jesuits, with their arcane knowledge and access to secret archives, would not be tracking spaceships or biological beings from other planets. They would be monitoring the arrival of entities of a spiritual nature, not mere aliens, but angels, or, depending on the interpretation of ancient texts and obscure prophecies, fallen angels, beings of immense power, returning or arriving for the first time in our era, with purposes that only the most secretive elite of the Vatican would dare to decipher. Could the search in the heavens be linked not to a physical invasion, but to a spiritual battle of cosmic proportions? Whatever the true nature of the entities the Vatican awaits or monitors, cosmic saviors or fallen angels, sources like Exo-Vaticana suggest a step further, an active program of global conditioning. The world would be subtly prepared through a narrative bombardment to accept these beings not just as visitors, but as our creators. Think about popular culture over the past few decades. Films, books, television series, pseudoscientific documentaries, even certain New Age doctrines. How many times have you seen the same story retold, with variations? That humanity did not evolve naturally, but was seeded, created or modified by advanced extraterrestrial intelligences. That our ancient gods were actually astronauts. A persistent, almost omnipresent narrative. They created us. They watch us. They will return. And when they return, according to this conspiratorial line of thinking, the Church, or at least a powerful faction within it, will be ready not to resist, but to welcome them, perhaps even to facilitate their acceptance as the true architects of our destiny. But is this the true divine or cosmic plan being revealed? Or are we on the verge of witnessing, perhaps even participating in, the greatest and most audacious deception ever perpetrated in human history? An age-old trap closing in on the collective consciousness? If a great revelation is being planned, if a cosmic deception is underway, how would they deal with the most sacred and seemingly unshakable pillars of established faith? And here we come to the most delicate issue, the dogma that defines Christianity itself, the virgin birth of Christ. How would the Church, or the faction that supposedly paves the way for the stellar creators, explain this fundamental miracle in light of a new cosmic revelation? The answer, according to those who investigate these theories, can be found in the dark and disturbing accounts of modern ufology. The abduction stories. Consistent reports from around the globe speak of non-human beings manipulating human genetic material. Women claim they were used as unwitting incubators to create hybrids. Biological technology far beyond our understanding. Could this be the alternative plan? The programmed explanation that the original transcript suggested? Would they dare say that Mary was not visited by a divine angel, but abducted by advanced beings? Would the virgin birth be brutally reinterpreted, not as a miracle of divine grace, but as an early example of extraterrestrial genetic intervention, a cosmic artificial insemination? Remove the divinity of the founding event to make way for the gods of the stars. Could this be the final blow to traditional faith? And the most disturbing question of all, are we, as a civilization, psychologically ready to hear and, perhaps, accept such an explanation? Is the veil of belief about to be irreparably torn? While voices like Malachi Martin have warned of spiritual entities and internal Vatican documents, other threads point to a missing piece in this dark puzzle, a piece that could connect everything. Martin mentioned a document, something later confirmed by anonymous sources who dared to speak out. But what if there is more? What if there is another book, a secret book, almost mythical? It is whispered that it was written by a former CIA agent, someone who has seen too much, who has accessed levels of information that would make most people lose their minds. A book that never received an official translation, which has never been openly discussed in the media or academic circles, which remains in the shadows, circulating only in clandestine copies among those who seek the truth or power. This forbidden text is said to be the master key connecting seemingly disparate dots. The occultism practiced by certain elites, the alien agenda, the secret plans of intelligence agencies, and the enigmatic figure of the stellar savior himself that some hope or plan to introduce. The operations manual for the final big deception. The name of this book is a closely guarded secret, a key too dangerous to be revealed lightly. But know that it exists. And the knowledge it contains is the missing piece to fully understanding the game that is being played behind the scenes of our world. Maybe, just maybe, we can decipher more about him in future broadcasts, if we're allowed. And so the threads connect. Ancient prophecies, modern secrets, cutting-edge technology, subverted theology, forbidden books and signs in the skies. Everything seems to converge to a focal point: the papal succession and what it might represent. When a new pope is chosen to sit on the throne of Peter, what can we really expect? If we are to believe shadowy sources like Exo-Vaticana, he will not be just a religious leader upholding tradition. He may be the chosen one, the prepared one, the herald of a new age, the ultimate catalyst, the one who will guide a confused and perhaps frightened humanity to acceptance. But acceptance of what exactly? The truth about our supposed stellar creators, the need for a new faith, a universal exotheology, of the arrival of a new God, coming not from tradition, but from the stars, a new order, not just earthly, but heavenly? Or is he the final piece in the great deception, the charismatic leader who will deliver humanity to its final servitude, disguised as cosmic salvation? Reflect on everything that has been said. Weigh the evidence, the allegations, the questions. Do you still think that all this is just fiction, conspiracy, delirium? Or are you ready to face the possibility that the truth, the one that hides behind the curtains of power and dogma, is far stranger and perhaps more dangerous than we ever dared to imagine? The future is not written. Or is it already written in some secret book that we have yet to find? If you liked this topic and our approach, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, comment, and share. Stay awake. Question everything. And remember, as Shakespeare said, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreams of in your philosophy.